So in order to get started, we're going to start right here in this first column, and we're going to go to the strategy overview card. As soon as I'm finished with the strategy overview, this link will go here, and it is an unlisted video that is on YouTube. Feel free to go back and watch it over and over again and take notes, but that video link will be right here in strategy overview. I like to have everything at your fingertips. Here is the link to the member portal, so you can really work here out of the mini map. And one of the things that I really like is the fact that as you're going through the questionnaire, it helps to really focus in and get clarity around what your offer is going to be. One of the things I've also done for Systems by Design members is to link certain podcast episodes here, so you have them handy and can access those episodes as they are relevant to your business. And the other thing that I want to point out to you, as you already know, is the community threads inside the Systems by Design dashboard. So what I've done is in the task list, I've laid out the one big goal for each month. And for you, I've actually gone ahead and done several months in advance. So make sure that you post in that one big goal thread that we post once a month. Hey there, it's Rhonda Melogy. If you like what you're seeing, make sure to hit the subscribe button below so you know when I publish a new video, probably any minute now. The Friday win threads are the actions that you are taking each and every month, or each and every week, I should say. So posting your wins here, and then the Transformational Thursday, which I really feel like you're going to go through a huge transformation going through this process. You've listed here what your daily affirmation is, which I absolutely love. I'm going to skip over right now the task list and go straight to Eat That Frog. So these are items that you feel like you're procrastinating on, and we actually address all three of these items inside the task list, and I'll show you that here in just a second. So you say, I feel overwhelmed, I do not have a niche, and I am doing so many businesses at one time. So we're just going to focus on one thing here in the task list, and we will knock that obstacle out of your way. The one skill set that you feel you don't have that's holding you back is making an income. So we're going to go for the goal that you have posted and that you and I had a conversation through Facebook Messenger. All right. So you've listed out your goals, you've listed out your experience and the niche, which is really creating a publication for gospel music. And really, you know, that would be a target of both local businesses as well as area churches. And then you could go global with it if you wanted to through a digital publication as well. Now, the way that I organize business is really into three different categories here: revenue, marketing, and operations. So some of these apply to you and some of them don't. You know, we want to focus our time in revenue generating activities, and I'll get to that with you in just a second. One of the biggest things that I can tell you is both packaging and workflow are going to be important for you. And then as you move and have customers, the client management system, creating the portal, I would recommend using Dubsado, so you have everything organized in one location, not only for your client, but then also for yourself. So a couple of things here with calendar management. This is all about marketing your business. For you, your marketing is really going to come up to a website, I believe, a very simple website. We'll get into that. And then definitely hooking up an email service provider. I love that you do have an opt-in on your website. I didn't think your website was published, but you do have an opt-in, so that's great. And I will share with you how I recommend collecting and starting to build your email list. Here we have operations. You'll see website here. I recommend, again, just a very simple website. Here are a couple of pages that we recommend posting on the website, and I recommend that you use Squarespace. It's very user-friendly. I would say much more user-friendly than WordPress, which I used for several years. So the only other thing that I would say is that as your business grows, you definitely want to get canned email responses in place. These are the most commonly asked questions. I wouldn't say that you would necessarily need Slack, but I would recommend that you have a nice professional email signature. And I've given you two ways to do that: how to create using free tools, and then an email signature in Canva. Okay? So let's go back, and we're going to focus most of our time right here on your task list. So you see that I've gone way above just a 90-day for you. We'll get into what this means. But really, August, September, October, November, December, and January. So based on your inputs in our conversations, you want to publish a gospel music magazine. So really your overall business goal is to, one, create your offer, which is your publication, and I'll dive into each one of these. Structure for your business. So I see areas of organization, whether that is publication, marketing, or sales. So right here I've just included 2. And then marketing your business is really the distribution of your magazine, right? So the one big goal is the offer and the process. So let's take a look at that first. The first thing that we start out with is business organization. And so if you don't already have your business binder in place, let's get that in place. And you said in there, obstacles, running too many businesses. So my recommendation is that you have a business binder that is just for this publication. The next thing is that I'm going to recommend is that you go through Time Management Rockstar every 90 days, because both your season of life and business are going to change every 90 days and how you can manage your time. So the 90-day checklist really is niche hacking, which is your offer, and I'm going to show you how you can use the system for this particular project and creating the workflow. So this is really the first 30 days, the first 2 things that we're going to look at. Then we're going to move into the client management system. This is more as it relates to setting up portals for clients who are advertising with you, and you can have a great billing system. And marketing. Marketing is almost going to be, we'll get into marketing. Marketing is going to be one of those things that it's the distribution of the magazine. And so my recommendation in launching the magazine is to work very closely with your immediate church. And I think that the launch of the magazine within your church, and I'll show you how to do this over the next 90 days, and then branching out from there, both with the network of churches that are involved with your church, as well as community businesses that support your church. We want to, it's almost like a vine theory. So you want to go from one vine to the other vine, and all of these vines are connected because they all start with your church, where you have a relationship with both your minister and the people in your church. Okay? So let's talk about August and your August checklist. And again, many of these things that we're going to do are going to complete the big goal. As we work through the big goal, we'll also complete Eat That Frog obstacle. This whole mini map is surrounded by the publication, preparing for the publication of your magazine. So I've already talked to you a little bit in the community about niche hacking, and specifically, I would look at Gospel Magazine, and you said that you have done that, so you have one publication. The other thing that I would recommend looking at when it comes to niche hacking is we want to look at publications. Whether it's a Gospel Magazine, which I definitely want you to use that for content purposes, but then I also recommend, say for example, one of the magazines that I know is popular where I live, and there's several different geographic locations. It's called Low Country Parent, it's called Columbia Parent, and Upstate Parent. So it is a parent magazine, and it's printed on newsprint, but it's in 3 different locations, okay? Now, I want us to think small first to get our processes and systems down first before we start thinking about, branching out and going to different locations, okay? So niche hacking, I definitely want to see the Gospel Magazine, and I recommend other magazines that you would see. And I use the Parenting Magazine because it really is, by studying this Parenting Magazine, if you have it, this is a great way, and the sources that you will find are going to probably be in the grocery store and even in a doctor's office. Those are 2 of the main places, and this can also be a hairstylist, right? Places where you're going to find local publications, okay? Now, we need to decide, so we need to also make some decisions. So we're niche hacking, so what we're doing is we're seeing the type of content that is being published. Let me go, so I've already got that. Type of content that's being published, the way that it's being published, the setup, the design, the feel, the look. So when I say type of publication, is it a glossy publication? Is it printed just on newsprint? Is what size? Like, what is the size? Is it like I'll call this apartment style and glossy? Or is the size more like, I would say, a newspaper, like a shorter newspaper, and it's on newsprint? You want to think about this as you go to publication. There are things to consider. Cost is going to be one, but then distribution. So if you're going to mail something, I mean, that's going to be somewhat costly, right? Distribution. So many times they will have these racks inside of the grocery store, or you can put the information out on tables and things like that inside a doctor's office. So we want to think about all of these things when we're thinking about the type of publication. Now we want to go to a local publisher for printing and then grab those printing rates. You know, do they have a couple of questions, you know, what are their minimums, right? And then type. And then we want to ask like turnaround. All of these things. I used to do, you know, we could send it off and within a week I could pick up the publication and then we would distribute it. So there's lots of things that go into the rate, and I would definitely partner with and get to know and maybe take a look at a couple of different publishers, okay? One of the things that I also considered, since this is a gospel magazine related to church, related to religion, is this something that, you know, are there grants that are available? Like, this is a community support. One of the things that I used to do way back when I was executive director for a nonprofit organization. And so one of my responsibilities was to write grants. And I know that I would write grants either through the Arts Council. I would have to get up in front of the county council because they would distribute funds. Maybe the chamber would know of resources, as well as asking your church, you know, to get this up and underway. To find some initial funding would be a great opportunity. I will tell you, with my offline event, one of the first things that we did for funding for the space was that I created a pamphlet, a flyer, and I knew my target, who was moms, was very attractive to car dealerships. And so I would target car dealerships who sold minivans because that was my target demographic. So I had a very professional presentation. I would schedule appointments with the marketing director, and if it passed with the marketing director, she would then approach the general manager for the dealership. And that's how I went through several ones. You know, you go down like Car Alley, right, where all of the car dealerships are, just really door-to-door sales is what I was doing. But I eventually landed a $3,000 sponsorship for my event, where the exchange would be they paid me $3,000 and then the vehicle would be inside of my event. There would be a representative there to ask any questions. So while moms were shopping, then dads could be talking to a car salesman about this car that would be fantastic for their children, so, and their families. So just kind of thinking outside of the box and just kind of thinking about funding to kind of help you get up and running with your printing. The goal here is, and the way that I've laid this out, is to really publish. We're going to start the process and publish it 3 months for your church, okay? The reason being is this is going to get you in a flow of deadlines. As you start this, it's going to feel overwhelming. It will feel overwhelming. There's a lot of moving parts to this, okay? But what's going to happen is that now you're going to get in a cycle. You're going to meet your deadlines. You're going to come up with the content. You will have the layout. When that layout and design needs to go to the printer, then you pick it up from the printer and then you distribute it locally. I would start just with your church. I would almost like to have a feedback committee. So you have this idea, you're printing up the information, and the first month I would have a meeting and have, no more than 10, maybe 5 people on your committee that are going to give you honest feedback on your publication. And what this is also going to allow you to do is when we have kind of optimized our process and we have a good look and feel for our publication, now we're going to have samples. So we can go out into the community and now work with local businesses for ad space, and they can actually see, instead of in theory you're talking about something, now they see something in front of them. Okay. This is another thing as you're going through and doing the niche hacking. You can include this now, but I also have it later, is I would request ad space or ad rates. Yeah, well, ad space rates, right? And they're going to tell you like the dimensions. It depends, you know, the type of publication. The other thing, is this going to be a black and white, kind of like a newspaper, or is this going to be printed in color? I don't know what the rates are going to be. To me, it seems like, well, we did a publication and it was all just one color, and I don't think it was black and white, but it was like a paper color, and then the text was black. Another publication that I worked with, which was the parenting magazine, it was in the newspaper print, but it was all in color. Okay, so these are all things that you're going to need to think about. But the goal is to publish for 3 months consecutively, get feedback each time you publish, and then we're going to have samples to work with. What this is also going to do is to lay out this publishing process. You need to know the tools, the resources in order to complete one run, right? I worked with a designer for the layout of the publication. So unless you know the design for the particular layout, I recommend, you know, looking at 3 different candidates. And one of the things I would ask your printer, so the local publisher, for recommendations if you don't know somebody, because I'm sure they work with people and then they could set up, right? They already have the relationship with the publisher. So you give the information to the designer and the designer then hands off to the publisher. Okay. The other thing with your magazine is the type of content that you're going to want. So I don't know if you're going to be a writer for it. You may be that person initially, but what type of content are you going to publish? And part of the niche hacking is really taking a look at the content that is in the gospel magazine. But since this is a passion for you, there's obviously ideas that you have that you feel are missing that you want to share. So I would list what those are, what they look like. Now, as we're coming up with the content and as we're looking in the designer, looking ahead, I want you to consider ad space layout. Is one thing. Now, and then, okay, so we'll get to ads here in just a second, okay? A lot to think about, but most of this really is researching gospel magazine, niche hacking, taking a look at the parenting magazine, the type of publication. This is going to determine your cost. Networking with a local publisher. Is there money available for printing that could help me? Depending on the denomination, there could be even grants available. Looking at both church, chamber, and county council. The goal is to really set up the publishing process and publish for 3 months. I would love to have a feedback committee with samples, and then you'll have a feedback committee, and then ultimately we'll have samples. Positions that I see, unless this is all of you, is designer and writer as part of your process. Okay? So this is August. August is full. When we go to September, the goal is to publish just for your current church. I don't want you to think about publishing for the masses. We want to run through this process. We want to have a printed piece first and get feedback on it. We got to get the process right first. really looking at this model from Gospel USA. I believe that was the name of the magazine. Okay, so the one big goal is the publication process run through for October launch. Okay, so we're going to run through. So we found out all of the information, and what we want to do here is we want to set up the process. And what I mean run is that we'll run it October, November, and December when we're actually doing the publication. But this is still going to your local church. You're doing the feedback session, and then they're preparing the publication process for November. This is all that you are involved with. So really, August is all the details around it. September is preparing based on the details that you have found here in the month of August, and then we launch and we print October, feedback, and we prepare. We launch, feedback, prepare, launch, feedback, prepare. So you see how now we're, into December and we have a process in place now. Okay, so what seemed like really overwhelming is no longer overwhelming. So we're going to work on the process for the publication, and a couple of things that I want to go ahead and recommend that you do. We could move these if we need to, okay, is customize the client intake form. Why do we want to do this? Because as you put your information out, as you print in October, there may be people that contact you for advertising opportunities. Like you could even go ahead and plant that in your first publication. And so using a customer relationship manager like Dubsado, and there's a step-by-step training in here, so someone can fill out this client intake form, which is all about, what's your business, what's your ad budget, where are you located. There are all kinds of questions that you can ask in this intake form and follow up with them. Make sure you also add phone number because this would be local. And so you set up where then the workflow then tags you, you schedule a call, and you can either go in one-on-one or you can go over Zoom and you share what the ad space looks like. And you close the sale. And then you can create the invoice inside of Dubsado. And you can share proofs for their ads inside Dubsado. So it's all nice and neat, tied up with a bow. Okay? So now we are set up in case somebody wants to advertise with us because we're planting a seed. And now we have just published our first publication. Distribute, feedback, and get ready for the next month. Now we move to November. Distribute, feedback, prepare for the next month. December, distribute, feedback, and prepare for the next month. One of the things that I also want you to look at, so we have set up here not only the publication process, but we also now have a customer process to support us for sales, right? So the next thing is that I highly recommend you do a simple website. All this is going to be is a home base for you, and you can do this in Squarespace. If you need tech tutorials and you're not a part of Tech Lab, I recommend that you do that, and I've given you a link to that, okay? And you can do it on a month-to-month basis, and so it's like $27 a month. So when you no longer need it, you can cancel at any time, all right? So the simple website you've launched, but what the simple website is going to do, guess what? That client intake form that you worked on back here, all you got to do now is put a link. And here is the idea that I had, is that in order to build your email list and being able to send out an email once a month, is that you collect the email in order to unlock the digital version of the magazine. Now you could have a paid subscription. I mean, there are all kinds of ways that you can do this, but as a free version to build your email list, you submit the email and then you can redirect to the digital version of the magazine, okay? Now, I've got you just publishing and preparing for December. I've got you publishing and preparing for January. As we move into January, the next part is really the sales department. So we talked a little bit, and we've already got the portal set up in Dubsado for our clients. to collect sales, right, to invoice them. So all of this is already set up. My target would be local businesses and target them for ad space. I would definitely use the Dream Client strategy, and I want you to start with your church network. And so you'll find the Dream Client strategy in the Trello Business System. All that is it's a list. You document all the information about the person, and you list the action, and then you can schedule a follow-up. So you put a deadline on that card, and it will trigger you to say, hey, Andrea, I just wanted to follow up with you and let you know we're getting ready to go to press for our publication. Just wanted to make sure to include you in this month's publication. So I would use that Dream Client strategy. It really just helps you to document, and it also helps you trigger the follow-up. But when I say start with church network, so you have been publishing October, November, December. You have been working feedback sessions with your church committee. And so I would start here. I mean, this is really the nucleus for you. And then reach out from there, because I'm sure there's small business owners that go to your church and now they've seen your publication. When we're talking about marketing, again, publication inside of hair salons, doctor's offices, local retailers. There are lots of places that you could go for marketing, but I really feel like your revenue is going to come from the ad space that you sell. And an easy network to step into is to start with your church network. Because once you start here and get your first 10 advertisers, and you could do them a monthly rate, which would be higher, and then maybe do a 6-month and have them go ahead and do a year. Don't undersell yourself, okay? That's one of the reasons we're starting all the way back here in August, niche hacking. We're finding out a lot of information. You might not be able to see what the ad space, the retail space is going for the gospel magazine, but for a parenting magazine and for other local magazines, they will send you their ad cards. And you can see exactly what they're charging, and that will help you in terms of planning on the size, and it can help you to see what the potential of revenue is. How many pages, how many advertisers do you need to support yourself? And that's why I say here initially in August, doing your homework, if there are any grants available, that's going to help cover your cost for the first few months so you're not stressed out. So the only thing that we're focused on is really developing this process, getting feedback, and preparing for the next month. Okay? I'm so excited for you. If this is a dream for you that you have been wanting to do, you know, I have worked with several publications. I've worked with, like I said, the nonprofit organization. We had a publication. We were an art theater house. And so each month we would have different art movies at our theater. And so it was a publication that went out through the membership. We actually mailed it. And we had grant money since we were part of the community, and we were a small theater nonprofit. Then we had grant money from the county council for advertising. And so that's why I said, like, this right here. I mean, this whole system, it's going to take some work to get organized, and it's going to feel overwhelming at first. But I tell you, by the time you get through to December, as you start to like now layer, and I hope that you see how we're layering on things. I didn't throw everything at you at once. The only thing that I focused on was really revenue generating to get this thing up and out the door. So we're figuring out all of our process around the publication. And then we can set up the client portal inside Dubsado. Your first 3 clients are free. And then after that, I do have a 20% discount code. That information is in your portal, okay? Under the Dubsado training. Once we do that, now we're in a printing process. And oh, people now want to get in contact with me. How does that work? Now we have put the website all the way back here in October. We've already done this client intake form. We have started collecting the emails. Now we're just publishing. publishing. Now we're layering on the sales. It's a beautiful, oh, I love this mini map. So, Andrea, I absolutely cannot wait to hear your thoughts on this mini map. It's more than 90 days. You know that it's more than 90 days. But I'm really, really excited for you. The biggest thing is that to stay engaged in the community, you know, going through this task list, being inside the community, posting your one big goal, posting your Friday win threads. This would be a wonderful process to document on social, on Facebook, or on Instagram. Just the stories of you going through the process of launching this publication. So I really appreciate you inside the community, and I appreciate you letting me be a part of your journey. And I can't wait to hear your feedback on this mini map. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Click the link. It's the first link. We make it super simple for any of the tools and resources that we talked about in today's video, helping you make it easy for your freedom to impact.